Hello all, let's look at question number 20 from GATE Biotechnology 2018 paper. The question is, which one of the following plant secondary metabolites is a natural insecticide? So option A, digitoxin, option B, pyrethrin, option C, salicylic acid, and option D, avanacin A1. So let's learn about pyrethrins. So pyrethroids is an organic compound similar to natural pyrethrins. So these pyrethrins are obtained from dried and powdered flowers, which are like daisy-like plant chrysanthemum. So the name is given to the active insecticidal compound of dried flower pyrethrins. So pyrethrins are combinations of 2 carboxylic acid and 3 keto alcohols, and these flowers are grown in Kenya, Tanzania, Ecuador, Japan, Uganda, and other countries. So recently, Australia has become the world's second largest producer of pyrethroids after Kenya. So how do we know that pyrethrins have insecticidal properties, and let's learn about the history. So French soldiers used crushed flowers to control fleas and body lice during Napoleonic Wars in the 1800s. So in 1860, pyrethrum powder was introduced in the US, and in 1881, pyrethrum cultivation was introduced to Japan from England about 82%. So in 1914, Japan became the principal supplier of pyrethrum flowers to the US. And in 1917, the US Navy made the first pyrethrum extracts against houseflies and mosquitoes. And in 1949, the first synthetic pyrethroids, which are alethrin and bioalethrin, developed in America by Milton S. Schechter and colleagues. So these pyrethroids were 20 times more effective than DDT, generally used insecticide, and it was more active than natural pyrethrum but are unstable in sunlight. And later in 1974, the Rothamsted team had discovered more persistent compounds like permethrin, cypermethrin, and deltamethrin. So these were more resistant to degradation by light and air, and they were suitable for use in agriculture, and they showed significantly low mammalian toxicities, which means they were less toxic to humans and other animals that consumed the plants. Let's now look at the properties of pyrethrin. So, rapid action. So, when insects contact this insecticide, uh, the pyrethrum, it attacks the nervous system of insects almost immediately. And it's considered a broad spectrum of insecticides because it consists of group of complex compounds that are effective against like a lot of insects, and lack of persistence, but they are somehow like degraded by sunlight and air, so they have less environmental hazards. And repellency, so these are powerful insect repellents and have a knockdown effect, and also they are less toxic to mammals. And here are some other properties. So they are pale yellow viscous oils or tan dust. They are insoluble in water and are soluble in organic solvents. So in light and air, oxidation and loss of insecticidal activity occur, and they are hydrolyzed in the presence of alkalis, and they are not readily washed off from plants by rain due to lipophilic characters. So which is good. So, chemicals that are obtained from natural sources and are used to control insect pests are natural insecticides. So, pyrethrum, also called natural pyrethrum, natural pyrethroid, or simply pyrethrins, is a highly effective botanical insecticide used for centuries against all kinds of insect pests. So, it usually occurs in the daisy, Tanacetum, and they are found in tiny oil containing glands on the surface of seed case in tightly packed flower head. So its insecticidal activity was discovered in Iran in the 1800s. So these compounds are made up of 6 complex organic esters formed by combination of carboxylic acid and keto alcohols. So these 6 organic esters are classified as pyrethrins 1 and pyrethrins 2, and these percentage indicates the abundance. So pyrethrin 1 is the most abundant compound, followed by pyrethrin 2, and then followed by cynarin 2, and then cynarin 1, and then jasmolin 1, and then jasmolin 2. So these account for all the pyrethrins. So how are these extracted? So first the flowers are harvested after blooming. They are either dried and powdered, or the oils are extracted with solvents. So the resulting pyrethrin usually have an active ingredient content of about 30%. So the active insecticidal components are collectively known as pyrethrins. Let's now look at their mode of action as insecticides. So these act as contact poisons, which means the insects are poisoned upon contact with the insecticide, and they affect the nervous system of insects by causing multiple action potentials. And then this leads to the delay in the closing of ion channels in the cells, and the sequence of poisoning symptoms are excitation, convulsions, paralysis, which finally leads to death. So sometimes they are mixed with other chemicals known as synergists. So some synergists are like piperonal butoxide and sulfoxide are used. So these synergists, they increase the effect of the pyrethrins, and they inhibit detoxification. And here are some of the applications of pyrethrins. So they are effective against human lice, mosquitoes, cockroaches, beetles, flies, and mites. So basically, they control all the insect pests that chew and suck upon the host. So some pyrethrin dusts used to control insects in horticultural crops as well. So some compounds may be used in grain storage, poultry, and on dogs and cats to control lice and fleas by adding these compounds in their shampoos. But some could be highly toxic to cats. And there are over 2000 registered pesticide products that have pyrethrin. So they are available in the form of foggers, sprays, dust, and pet shampoos, like I just said. And here are some environmental effects of pyrethrins. So they are low in toxicity to people and other mammals, and they're toxic to beneficial insects such as bees, dragonflies, mayflies, and gadflies, which is quite bad. And they are also very highly toxic to fish, lobster, shrimp, and oysters. And when eaten or inhaled, they are rapidly broken down into inactive products and are removed from the body. And irritation, it's but when ingested, it could just lead to the irritation of respiratory passages, running nose, coughing, difficulty in breathing, vomiting, and diarrhea. So it can also be irritating on the skin when contacted, and in the presence of sunlight, pyrethrins on in the water or in the soil and plant surfaces rapidly break down, and more than 85% left like pyrethrin leave the body in feces or urine within 2 days if in case it's ingested. So very small amounts in milk and eggs of exposed animal. So like the products of animals could have traces of pyrethrin if the animals consume it. And on they are also found on potato and tomato leaves, and only less than 3% remained after 5 days. So these insecticides are available in several brand names like Evergreen, Pyganic, Pyrenon, Pyronal Crop Spray, Tersus, and Pyrethrum TR. So the synthetically produced compounds, insecticidal compounds, are called pyrethroids, and these pyrethroids were originally made to synthetically mimic pyrethrins, which are naturally found in plants acting as natural insecticides. They are derived from pyrethrum of dried chrysanthemum or daisy flowers, and these pyrethroids are chemically more complicated molecules. This makes them more toxic than the naturally occurring pyrethrins. And yeah, so they're 10 times more effective than natural pyrethrins. And today's pyrethroids have very low or no odor at all, and they last longer and can be used in very little concentrations. So these pyrethroids are grouped into two classes. So type 1 pyrethroids are derivatives of pyrethrin. They don't have a cyano group. And type 2 pyrethroids have a cyano group. So some examples of type 1 pyrethroids are alethrin, permethrin, phenolphthrin. And type 2 pyrethroids are cyflothrin, flucytrinate, and flumethrin, and so on. So let's look at a few of these pyrethroids. And alethrin is the first synthetic pyrethroid. It's a pale yellow liquid. It's again a contact insecticide. It's generally effective against mosquitoes, flies, and ants, and available as coils, mats, oil formations, and as aerosol sprays. So they are also available in all of these brand names. Then resmethrin is a colorless waxy solid. So it's also a contact insecticide. And resmethrin is not toxic to plants. They are used to control agricultural, horticultural, and public health insect pests. And 55 to 82% are broken down within 2 hours, and they're available uh, in, with the following brand names like Chrysron, Crossfire, and Vectrin. So the advantages of these are that they are extremely highly insecticidal activity at very low doses. They are biodegradable and they are effective against a broad range of pests and even their eggs and larval and adult stages of insects. And they are powerful and have repellent properties. And they are not readily washed off from the plant by rain. And the movement from site of application is limited in air due to low volatility. Some disadvantages are that the constant use of synthetic pyrethroids could increase the resistance in insects pest in the naturally occurring state. So it could be harmful for beneficial organisms like honey, bees, beetles, spiders, and predatory mites. Like we already saw that they're toxic to fish, and on prolonged storage, they lose their insecticidal action because, like, yeah, they're broken down by sunlight and air. Let's also look at the other options given the question. So digitoxin is a cardiac glycoside used in the treatment and management of congestive cardiac insufficiency, arrhythmias, and even heart failure. And then salicylic acid belongs to a class of drugs known as salicylates. And when applied to the skin, salicylic acid may work by helping the skin to shed dead cells from the top layer and by decreasing redness and inflammation. So, this decreases the number of pimples that form and speeds up the healing process. And then avanacin A1 is a member of a group of naturally occurring compounds called saponins, which is a plant secondary metabolite. It is found in oat plants where it protects naturally against fungal pathogens. Now, coming back to our question, which one of the following plant secondary metabolites is a natural insecticide? So, we saw that pyrethrin is a natural insecticide, and we also saw what the other products, metabolites, are used for. So, avanacin is also a plant product, but it's a fungicide. So, pyrethrin is the answer to our question.